This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. Welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard. It's a real privilege to be with you today. Got another great show lined up for you. Today, we're going to learn some things about freedom. Today, we're going to learn about how to do things in your business differently, better, to help you live a happier and healthier life while working hard and being successful in your business. Today, we're talking about business leaders gaining more freedom and living a happier life as a result of that. And who doesn't want more freedom? Who doesn't want more time? Who doesn't want to have more fun in life? That's what life's all about. It's not to be a victim of the business where the business owns you. You need to own the business and be in charge of it. And so today we've got an outstanding guest who's an expert in this space, going to talk us through from his experiences of working with lots of different people, how to help people be more successful personally and professionally. And so let me introduce our guest today. Today we have the privilege of having Kyle Smith on the show. Kyle's the managing partner at StrataCloud, which is an accounting firm based in Austin, Texas, which helps small to medium-sized businesses with their financial expertise while promoting a healthier work-life balance at the same time. So, Kyle, welcome to the show, my friend.
Excited to be here, Jason.
Well, we're excited to have you, man. You're doing some incredible things out there to help small and medium-sized businesses. And so just start off with, who are you? Where are you from? And why are you doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I came from the hospitality industry originally. Worked many years in restaurant, bar setting. Worked at a brewery and have a passion for wineries and wine as well. That's the kind of thing behind me there, and it runs in the family. So my dad uh, joined the army right out of high school, and he learned to cook in the army. That's the skill that he learned. He would tell me the story where he would they'd be having exercises with tanks, and they'd stop the tanks at lunch, and he'd go out and serve lunch. So that's kind of where he learned to cook, and he took that skill and was in the hospitality industry for the rest of his career. Worked at Brinker, which owns Chili's. So I sort of grew up in that space. And when I was coming out of college at UT, University of Texas, my dad was starting a restaurant franchise here in Austin and San Antonio. So I thought, that'd be a perfect opportunity for me um, to kind of jump in and learn because I just graduated with a finance degree. At the same time, I was secretly, not secretly, but I was playing poker on the side and thought I could be a professional poker player. And so, kind of had those dual tracks of learning the restaurant industry from the finance side, playing poker, which a lot of poker is risk and reward. So, kind of learning, on both sides there. But when I was playing poker, I realized in that game, if I win, somebody else has to lose and vice versa. You can't all win together. And it kind of made me realize I want to be an entrepreneur and help people instead of maybe playing poker for a living. So that's what really gave me the drive to say, hey, what's something I can do that if I win, other people can win too. And that's really the impetus for starting Strata Cloud. It wasn't started for many years later, um, but that's the kind of inspiration. So from there, I worked at various bars and restaurants. Like I said, uh, had an opportunity to work with a technology startup here in town, and that was a multi-year crash course in all the different industries. So I would just been exposed to hospitality industry throughout my career, but had that kind of multi-year pivot where I learned a lot of different industries and a lot of different tools and techniques that we're utilizing now at StrataCloud. So me and two partners from that technology company, we started Strata in 2020 with the goal, like you said, of helping business owners achieve freedom and work-life balance. And we haven't looked back since.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. First off, thank you for sharing that. And second, tell your dad thank you for his service in the army. I mean, that's amazing. Only in this day and age, only about 1% of people in America have ever served. And so it takes a special person to be able to get in there and serve. And whether you're cooking, cleaning, tank driving, flying planes, or whatever that may be, every job in the military is important. Every job is it's all part of protecting our freedom. So thank him on my behalf and the everybody's behalf for everything he did for the country. So that's really cool. So is it you're an army brat? How long did he serve? How many times did you move around with him?
So it was a short stint relatively because by the time I was born and was kind of up and going, he had already kind of taken his skills and was working as a cook in the private sector. So,
Okay. All right.
but it shaped the rest of his life, and I'll definitely let him know that, and likewise to you, Jason, the courage it would take as an 18-year-old to do that. Yeah, it's I'm very proud of him for it for sure. But yeah, I didn't have the kind of drawback of having to move around a bunch, which was lucky for me.
Yeah, yeah, you got the better end of that deal. Most
Yeah.
most people that have parents in the military, they have to move around quite a few times, make new friends, and that's
Yep.
that's tough on the family as well. But luckily, you got to benefit in other ways from that. And boy, I tell you what, a lot of people in the military turn into be entrepreneurs, and they see these opportunities. They're resourceful, tough people that can figure out how to problem solve. And so I'm glad he took his talents out into the world and put them to good use, because everybody's got to eat, three times a week, three times a day. So I'm glad he put that to use. It sounds like that served him well. So good on him. I'm happy for him. So
Absolutely.
for you, coming out of the hospitality and the restaurant bar business, I'm sure you learned a lot of things. So how did you kind of transition out of that into finance and accounting? That's kind of a whole kind of a niche inside of itself. How did you discover that was your passion and where you wanted to be?
Yeah. So, I went to school for finance, but kind of wasn't sure if that was what's going to be it. But when I was working with my dad on those restaurants, seeing how important it was to understanding the financial statements because they're like another language.
Mm,
So taking what I learned and I remember the first time I built a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement for the business, and it really clicked in for me of wow, one, this is our money on the line, the family's money, so this is huge that we can have visibility into what the numbers look like. um, and two, this is a language that is super useful for getting loans, um, having equity partners, sharing with the managers of the business how we're doing. So there's so many different applications to being able to one, get accurate numbers, and then two, do the analysis on that. And so that's what excited me from the beginning and started my journey, where I kind of stayed in that restaurant and bar space, really focusing on that type of analysis. And then, like I said, I was able to kind of pivot away for a while to get even more tools to use. But that's what started the passion, was just, seeing the importance of understanding the business. And that's what accounting is. It's really a language that if you know how to speak it, you can really see some valuable insights into how the business can pivot. Um, because that's one of the biggest things, when people think that there's like a secret answer, or maybe they don't, but at least me, I want, part of me always wants to have an easy answer of, oh, if I do this in the business, then everything's going to be fine. Really, finance is learning those tools to be able to pivot. Because the best you can do is you don't know what the future is going to come in the future, but if you have the tools to quickly analyze what's coming and move around it faster than other businesses do, that's the difference between survival and failure. And that's what the finances of the business and the accounting of the business allows you to do, is see what's coming ahead, analyze what happened more quickly than others, and then pivot around things that are going to come up, because there's always going to be something that comes up that you don't expect. Can you deal with it? Um, that's what accounting provides.
Yeah, I love your kind of analogy with being another language, right? Because for a lot of people, let's say they're in the restaurant business or the trucking business or the manufacturing bit, pick an industry, pick a type of business, pick a size business. Everybody struggles with financials. It's, you know, a challenge to convert that into something. And everybody I know in business at some point or another has been challenged to really um, look at the numbers and really, what does this mean? Am I profitable or am I not profitable? Can I invest in something new and different or better? Can I buy this other company? Can I make an investment here? Do I need to cut expenses there? Like data is data, and the fact that you can pull data out of the systems and put them together in a consolidated sheet is one thing, but being able to translate that into actionable things, I think, is critical. And so, yeah, I mean, I could see you being the translator of Chinese to English or whatever language you want to, connect those dots to. But that's powerful because the data creates information, and the information put together allows people in leadership positions to make informed decisions. And so I think that's what you were really, really talking about there, right? Business is a competition, it is a sport. And while you talked about doing things so you can get a win-win for people versus playing poker where there's a win-lose, at the end of the day, business is a win-lose situation. Right now, yeah, you may have partners or vendors that you can work with where everybody can win. But if it's your business versus somebody else's business that does something similar to you, then yeah, it's a win lose, right? And you want to give the advantage to them. So, how has this proven to given people advantage of the people you've worked for?
Yeah. So one example where we kind of came in after the fact, we had a business where they thought they were doing pretty well, and their cash flow was pretty consistent. So their cash in the bank from month to month was pretty consistent. Um, and they wanted to expand to a new location, and they knew it was going to take a bank loan, or they thought it was.
Hmm.
And they went to the bank with their financials, and the bank came back and said, your cash balances are fine, but we can't lend you the money because you're not profitable, and your payables balance is continuing to grow and grow and grow every month. And they weren't doing the consistent measuring and analysis that we would be doing, and working with them to do. And they didn't know that their payables were getting bigger, meaning, they were not paying their vendors. And so the cash in the bank seemed pretty stable because they weren't taking that cash and using it to pay the people that they
Mm.
owed. And so the bank said, go back, fix your payables, fix your profitability. So they were really behind the 8 ball on how they thought they were doing. They thought they were doing better than they actually were. The reason is because a lot of that cash was in the bank, and it was actually owed to the vendors. And so the bank didn't want to, get in line with the vendors on getting paid. So that's a huge
Yeah.
example where, if you're doing the analysis, and what we would have done and what we did was come in and say, hey, your net income is negative every month, but your net cash is break even or slightly positive. And if you were looking at the difference between your net income, which is, you were talking about winning and losing. If your net income's positive, this is overly simplistic, but you're winning. If your net income's negative, you've probably got some things in the business you need to fix. So in that case, they would have been able to see, one, our net income's negative. There's some things in the business we need to fix. And two, our cash balance is different than net income. How can we fix that? And that's what I preach is you don't have to understand a cash flow statement. As a person who's not a finance expert, I wouldn't expect anybody to understand a cash flow statement because they're very complicated, or can be. But if you can go to the bottom of that statement and see what the balance is, compare that to what your net income is, and if there's a big gap there, start asking the questions of why. And in that case, they would have been able to find it. And as another quick example, we worked with a business and they were looking to finance another location, and we were kind of uh, working with them very early on. And in that case, we were able to recommend that they finance with a bank, a line of credit, as kind of a contingent financing and self finance instead of using outside investors, which they'd done for previous locations. And that's going to set them up to potentially, if this new location performs like previous ones, they'd be saving seven figures over a 3 to 5 year span in money that would have gotten paid out to outside investors. Now they get to keep it in the business,
Hmm.
and can expand more quickly in the future. So that's the type of the decisions that we help people with. That if you're not a finance expert, you may not necessarily be able to see. Um, that said, I strongly encourage people, no matter if they're working with us as a CFO or accountant, or they have an in-house person, or it's them as the business owner, you have to have a finance function of the business and you have to measure it, because things like I just explained in those two examples will come up, and those are critical kind of pivot points of the business that if you miss it, you might be missing cash for each month going forward. You're not just making a
Yep.
bad decision or a right decision the month that you make it. It's going to have repercussions for the life of the business.
So in example number one, walk us through, what do you do with people when you're working with somebody and they think they're doing better than what they really are, but they're really not, and they're kind of half-ass doing their finances, and you're involved, you take over. Like, what's your process? How do you dig in? How do you help them figure that out, get to where they need to be, and put themselves in a position where they can get that loan and they can do something, bigger and better in their business?
Yeah. So one, on a high level, philosophically, start by measuring. So if you think of the analogy of running a marathon, it doesn't matter to me, at least for in my case, if I consider myself mentally tough, it doesn't matter how mentally tough I am. If I'm not trained to go run that marathon, I'm gonna get defeated at some point. I'm probably not gonna be able to make it. But if I consistently am training up to that marathon, I'm giving myself the best chance to succeed, and kind of work with how mentally tough I am, and you put the two together, and you can accomplish a great thing. It's the same, in my opinion, with finances. You have to be consistent, measuring the business, and not getting overwhelmed. So that's the first thing. Two, when we come in, we'd make sure on a nuts and bolts view that everything's in the right spot. So, for instance, we worked with somebody where they had their sales tax booked as an expense. And what that means is that they were a lot more profitable than it actually looked like on their profit and loss statement. So, we were able to
Mm,
make that fix and take them from negative to positive on their bottom line. And that would be huge if you're showing financials to a bank that are a lot worse than the actual reality is. So that's the first one, is we make sure everything's in the right spot, and hopefully we're catching anything like that and moving it to where it needs to go. So you're at least showing accurate numbers, to whoever internally, or to a bank, or to investors. So that's the first thing. Nuts and bolts is everything where it should be on the financials. The second thing is we'll attack big to little on all of their cost items that are affecting the business. So I know revenue is critical, so I'm not discounting that, but what we'll usually do is, focus on money coming in the door, meaning um, take the big cost items, for instance, like credit card fees, credit card processing fees, um, other large cost of sales vendors, and make sure that is there any opportunity to get a better deal, get on terms. Um, and we'll also do landlord negotiations. So that means, we worked with a person where we kind of set up a percentage rent structure with a business. So the landlord would benefit more on the upside, but the business had a lower downside. So the rent would get smaller as their sales got smaller, and that would help them pivot through tougher seasonality. So that would be one example. And with credit card processing fees, there's a lot of companies that take a huge chunk until you ask them. So that's what we'll do. A lot of times we'll come in and say like, "Wow, these are maybe a percentage high," which 1% doesn't seem like a lot. If you're doing, 15 million a year at one location, if it's a restaurant, for instance, that could be 4 to 5 grand a month. So, you
Mm.
know, restaurants, for instance, are very low margin businesses. If you can save a percent here and there, that's a huge number. So that's the way we attack, is take your costs, big to little, see the ones where we can have the most effective change, and see if we can start chunking those down to take the business from not profitable to profitable if we can. And in the case, the original example I gave, that's how we would attack a company that kind of got the dressing down from the bank. That's how we would attack it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is there an area, Kyle, where you specialize in certain things or have a certain system or software or tools that you use that other people don't use, or do you just work with any business out there? Talk to us a little bit about your differentiation and how unique you guys are and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. So our industries that we're experts in, and I have two other partners, two other amazing partners. But we focus in professional services, which I know is a wide range,
Yeah,
and obviously the hospitality restaurant industry, where I lived for many years, and then consumer packaged goods. Um, and so where we can really affect change is inventory. So companies that have inventory, um, there's a lot of ins and outs there. There's a lot of places where you can go wrong, get bad numbers. And so there's a lot of areas for us to come in and fix things a lot of the time, and make sure that things are running well. And so industry wise, that's where we like to focus. And in terms of the technology that we use, um, we have an experience with a ton of different technologies. That's where we all came from, that tech startup where we used a bunch of different ones. So we're
yeah.
pretty agnostic in that sense. Where our specialty lies is three-way forecasting. So hopefully nobody's glossing over yet, because it's really important concept, a three-way forecast. And so one, forecasting is useful because it's the tool to analyze challenges in the business and growth opportunities in the business, and those are always coming up. So forecasting is the best way to see, hey, if we open this new location, how are we going to do? How are we going to do if it's 50% bigger sales than we expect? How are we going to do if it's 50% less sales than we expect? And we'll model those both out, or those scenarios out, and see how that affects the business. And what a three-way forecast is not only are we showing how the business is doing in terms of profitability, we're modeling how that affects the balance sheet and how that affects cash. So a lot of the times you can do a model, um, and the business might be on terms with vendors, or there's other inventory that's affecting cash flow, and that's not modeled out. So they might not be getting a sense of how the business expansion, as an example, would be affecting their bottom line cash flow. Because a lot of the times expansion takes more cash than people expect. So what we'll do is really analyze the scenario, not just on how they do operationally, but how it's going to affect the cash in the bank, to get a full picture of what is going to be most likely the right decision when we're making those models. And then the business can make a better decision on how to be profitable and how to make sure that they're financed well enough. Because you can have a profitable business if you expand too fast and you draw on the cash too fast. You can be in a spot where you can get stuck pretty bad with either bad financing, or you might threaten the business existence as a whole if you're not well financed during a growth period.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Absolutely. That's one of the top reasons why people do go out of business. They grow too fast, and they don't have enough money to keep that going until that growth cycle kicks in, and their receivables are catching up to their payables
Exactly.
and breaking, kind of equalizing all of that out, which is really, really hard to do, which goes back to your three-way forecasting and modeling. I can't emphasize to people listening to the show out there that how important forecasting and modeling really is. Most people don't really think about it, but we've got the technology systems out there today to be able to project and model different scenarios for which you may experience, good, bad, expected, or unexpected, to where you can make uh, really good informed decisions based off of those models and and the situations that you may experience, economic downturns, or political things that go on, or whatever may be going on in the world around us that may or may not be in your control. These things are powerful, powerful tools. If you are not using forecasting and modeling in your business, regardless of what kind of business it may be, you are really putting yourself at a disadvantage. This is a massively valuable set of tools that all businesses need to use more of. I've seen people not use them and make bad decisions. I've seen people use them and make really good decisions. So I just kind of wanted to thump on that because that is very, very powerful set of skills and resources that you are bringing to bear. Um, so Kyle, we talk about one of the differentiators that I see with you, and I've worked with a lot of different CPA firms that are connected to my clients around the world. I've had different CPA firms working directly for me. I understand that business, what I'll call rather well. I'm not an expert like you at it, but I know good and I know bad when I see it. And you guys are obviously doing some really great work, but one of the things that differentiates you is your ability to give freedom back and balance in life back and happiness in life back, right? Talk to people about why that's important to you. Why is that such a staple of your business, and kind of what that means to you, and why you focus on that so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say first, speaking of experts, I've been thinking for many years now on how to best communicate why forecasting is important to clients, and what you just described is the best thing that I've heard yet. So I would love to steal that, because that was I'm not a marketing expert by trade, and that I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. So thank you for putting that into words that I can hopefully I can take that, because that was exactly why it's important. And I hadn't heard it, described like that before. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, no, I appreciate that, and it's critical. I see it all the time. People don't really know what they're doing. They don't understand the tools. They're just kind of running from day to day, week to week, and hoping the numbers that are in front of them are correct, and half the time they're not. So I think it's just very, very powerful, and you guys offer that. And again, anything you can do to add value to help somebody be better, I'm happy to explain it in whatever way, and to just be thankful we've got all this recorded, so you can go back and take whatever you want to from the session. I won't even charge you for that, Kyle. That's just a benefit of knowing me, I guess.
Benefits I couldn't even have thought of before we start talking. So
All right,
no,
so talk to us about freedom. Talk to us
yeah,
about balance and happiness, and kind of this life work dynamic, and how this is so important to your business, how it's so important to your clients' businesses, and how you focus on that and help them transition from maybe not being in such a good place with those things to being in a great place.
yeah, it's related to what we were just talking about, and it's even more essential or core to why we're doing what we're doing. And it's measuring it. It's not getting overwhelmed and looking at the numbers, because it's about goal alignment. So everything that we're talking about goes back to the owner of the company or the executive team, whatever it might be. Um, are the goals of the business aligning with their personal goals? And a lot of times, that's where we like to start, because if we can't start there, where's the passion for the business going to be? So an example is, hey, you know, I want to grow by $1 million next year. Okay, with your business, if you grow by $1 million, you're going to have to hire this many people. it's going to cost this much, and you're going to have to probably put in this amount of time at your current role if you do that. Does that make sense
Hmm.
for what you want to do in your current life situation, for instance? And if the answer to that is no, let's go back to the drawing board now before you get 6 months into an expansion and realize this isn't what I wanted to do personally. This is just a number that I had that I wanted to achieve in the business. So it's really even more core to what we're doing to make sure that um, is all the financial scenarios and growth scenarios that we're looking at, that those match the mission of the company? And does the mission of the company match to the owner or the executive team, or whatever the ownership structure of the business is? Um, and that is key, because if you start with that and move down the line, um, then everybody else is going to be passionate. Um, you know, us working with you, we're going to be passionate, and we're all going to be working towards the same goal. And then we can more easily overcome the obstacles and unexpected things that inevitably come down the path. So to me, it's really a matter of passion, making sure that that business passion is there and it matches what you want to do personally, because then we can take the numbers and we can start using all those tools that we talked about to make better decisions.
You said some really important things in there. And I'm going to probably say it in some different words. Reality check. People say a lot of, oh, I'm going to grow my business, I'm going to 10x my business in the next 2 years, and I want to do this, and I want to grow that. I want to take my competitors out, or I want to, do X, Y, and Z. Pick whatever the reason is, pick whatever that may be in your mind of what you're defining as success. I want to do X. And it usually X is something bigger, better, grander scale, whatever, because that's some kind of a goal or vision that they have, and them achieving, the top of the mountain of whatever they're defining at the top of the mountain is important to them. They feel like they've accomplished something, and some teacher that said they never amount to anything in life, they're going to prove them wrong by conquering all this stuff. And but what they lack is reality, because a lot of people I've noticed, Kyle, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is they've never achieved that before, and they've never been there. They don't know what that looks like. They don't know what that feels like. They don't know the reality of what that really is. And what I think I heard you say is that you kind of do some reality checks there with your tools and your forecasting and modeling to say, well, if you want to grow $1 million, here's what that looks like. Are you willing to do what it takes to make it happen? And does that align with your ideal lifestyle that you claim you want to live? Or have you even defined that yet?
No, absolutely. Because if you don't define it, you're never going to have, you can't force the passion. It has to be there. And the example I gave can be on the other end too. It can be, hey, you've got a really good opportunity here with maybe a talented ops director that can come in, and that's going to allow leverage for you to focus on growth and still maintain, your lifestyle or whatever your goal is personally. And y'all are going to be able to. You thought you could 5x next year. If things go right, we see a scenario where you could 10x. So I mean, sometimes you realize that there's a ceiling that's higher than you thought it was before. But really, it's like I said, not throwing your hands up and saying, I don't know the numbers, so I'm not going to look at them, and I'm just going to pick something and see if we can do it. Um, I'm all for picking something, but then let's analyze it and make sure that it makes sense, like you said, and then we can start adjusting to what's most important to the business, and what's most important to you as the owner.
Let me say this. If you're a business owner, business leader, decision maker out there, and you're listening to this podcast and you're kind of soaking all this knowledge from Kyle and all of his expertise in this space, which is awesome. At the end of the day, make it simple. I think what Kyle's saying is, first off, you need clarity. Where are we? Where are we going? Why are we going there? And do I have everybody in my company on the same page?
Yep.
Or am I just, pipe dreaming here and hoping for the best? Like, do you have clarity? And what I'm going to define as clarity in this situation is, do you have, and it's two-sided. One side is, do you have clarity about you and your life and where you are? And are you living the ideal life you really want to live? Working the amount of hours you want to work, spending time with your family, enjoying, vacations and time off and downtime, and just enjoying your hobbies, horseback riding to golf to skydiving to whatever the heck you like to do in the world. Are you living that life? And if not, why? And what needs to happen to make it happen? And then the other side of that coin is on the business side. Where's this company going? Where's the vision? Is everybody clear on that vision? Does everybody have a plan? And is everybody in my company doesn't have the plan and know where they fit into that plan and what their roles and responsibilities are, and everybody tracking their performance, then how do you expect to ever do well?
Yep.
Do you run into those situations? Do you agree, disagree?
No, I agree 100%. And one thing I'll add that I was thinking about was the most powerful tool that I've experienced, and it's time and time again, is a business owner's intuition. And even if
Ooh,
they think they're
nice.
not a numbers person, they are. So, like you said, not getting overwhelmed, not throwing your hands up. If a business owner just looked at revenue alone, I don't. As a business owner, I haven't met one yet, and I can be very confident that even if there's not a numbers person out there, they know the revenue of the business. For instance, I can go to a business owner and say, "Hey, revenue this month was X. Revenue last month was Y." And that's where I'll see it all the time. Their gut will kick in and say, we just did a mailer that was pretty extensive, and I thought our revenue in this month would be a little bit higher than that." And then that starts the conversation of going down and finding out why. And those people aren't numbers people, but they know the business. And so just looking at one KPI, which a lot of people think KPI is a some big scary number or a metric that nobody knows about, that I'm not, I don't have enough expertise to figure out. Revenue is a KPI, and it's one of the most powerful KPIs. So it's, start with something like as simple as revenue. You're not a numbers person, but as a business owner, you can still know, hey, my revenue last month was this month is this. Is that what I expected? If not, why? If so, why? And that starts that process and kind of can open up all the things that you talked about, just by keeping it simple, starting with one thing. It can be really powerful.
Yep. And by the way, for those that may not know, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. Basically, those are things that are most important to you that you should be tracking, that lets you know whether you're doing well or not so well. Yes, revenue, profitability, it could be, the health and welfare and the morale of the organization. It could be your customer service ratings your customers are giving you. It could be a lot of different things that are important to your business. If you don't have consistent metrics that you are not looking at on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, you need to figure out the most important things that are going on in your company that tell you what's going on in your company. If you need help with that, then obviously we have Kyle on the show today, and we're going to allow him an opportunity here in a little bit to talk about how to contact him, and you can help set up those KPIs. If Kyle can't help you, then maybe I can, because I help people set up KPIs too. But we're talking about your finances for sure today, and Kyle would absolutely be the best in that space. So just wanted to level set there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Um, so Kyle, as we um, are starting our kind of descent here on the Soar Higher podcast, talk to us about the three things that people need to start doing today if they're not already doing it, that gives them breathing room, that starts giving them freedom, starts giving them the ability to find balance, so they're not working in the business 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They can sleep better at night. What are the most important things that you can tell the people today from your perspective that can help them start doing that?
So the first one is delegate. And I know that's getting a little outside of direct finance advice, but it's always related because your core this is my opinion, your core competency is what you do in the business. So find what that is, find where you focus best, or where you're most efficient and where you can help the business the best. Um, find that, focus on that, and find ways to delegate the other responsibilities. I think that's crucial, and that's me talking to myself because I'm a victim of going down wormholes too from time to time. But always trying to remind myself that what is my core competency? Where am I going to most help the business? And let me focus my time there, because otherwise, there's way too many things that can get in the way of your time to do that. So that's one. Two is understand the difference, at least look at the difference between, and we talked about it before, the difference between cash flow and income in the business, because that's going to tell you any delays or lags, anything that you don't understand. You can at least start asking the questions, and then someone like us can help find the answer. You can also find the answer yourself, with the right tools, but you've got to answer the question. You've got to ask the question to start. So, why is my net income identical to cash flow? I'm a cash business. That's a very simple business. That's a great, place to
Hmm.
be if you're profitable. Otherwise, if it's different, what's causing the difference? And do I understand that from month to month? So that's two. And the third one, like I said, is define your goals. And that I probably should have said that one first. Define what your goals are for yourself, and uh, and then make sure that you're focusing on those as they relate to the business, and focus on what you're best at and most efficient at the business, and then understand your cash flow. If you're doing those three things on a consistent basis and redefining them, so I think a lot of people say, "Here's the goals, and I'm done." But
Hmm.
really, like I've said, it's consistently viewing what's going on in your life, what's going on in the business, and redefining those and adjusting them. If you're doing those three things consistently, I think then you can kind of handle what's coming, in the future, which you never know what it is. It allows you to best handle those tough decisions, and pivot, um, and have that freedom.
Man, that is so awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, Kyle. You've given us a lot of powerful insight today to really kind of help people break away from their day-to-day stuff and think about their business a little bit differently. Maybe think about, how to do things to work on the business versus just working in it and getting lost in it from day to day.
Mhm.
Kyle, people want to reach out to you. They want to learn more. They want to learn about modeling and simulating and projecting and leveraging technology and tools to help them make better decisions and you know manage their finances and grow their business in the ways that you help people do that. How do they best get in touch with you to start that process?
Absolutely, Jason. So our website is stratacloudaccountants.com, and we have a special landing page for Soar Hire listeners, where we have some free content, and you can start tracking the financial KPIs. And thanks, Jason, for explaining many different types of KPIs. But I have five essential KPIs that we like to track that we talked about today. And so there's a downloadable content there, and that landing page is stratacloudaccountants.com/hire.
Very nice. Thank you so much for offering to give people some free resources and tools. Thanks for being on the show and being, taking time to just share this information with people, kind of help people break, their normal thought processes from week to week and think about things a little bit differently. Folks, today is about freedom. Today's about you. Today's about you living a better life, a happier life, and not being a prisoner of your own company, the company owning you. This is a chance for you to take control and you own it. You drive the train, you make the decisions, you get the best results possible. And so kind of as a recap here, defined, define the life you want to live and what makes you happy and what needs to happen to live that life of happiness, personally and professionally. Have goals personally and professionally, especially in the business. Have goals that you can share with your team and that everybody can be on the same page, working on a plan together, that everybody is, in the boat, rowing the boat in the same direction, at the same frequency, and at the same pace. And then obviously you need to track those kind of things, KPIs, key performance indicators, pick the things that are most important. Kyle just named off 5 from a financial standpoint that are really critical to track. And so he can help you with that. If you need additional help, reach out to us through the podcast. We'll be happy to connect you with myself, Kyle's team, whoever needs to help you kind of figure out where you're at. Because when you do those things, you have decided to be proactive. You've decided to take control. You've decided to be more successful, and you've decided you're not going to let life drag you around the parking lot by the skull. You're going to live a pain-free life of doing things a lot easier and a lot better. When you do that, well, I tell you from experience, it really is a game changer. So that's it for today's show, everybody. Next week, got another powerful show in line for you tomorrow. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to scale your business through diverse and innovative marketing. Very powerful, innovative ways to showcase your company in a lot different ways than you may not have even thought of before. That kind of gives you that competitive edge. Look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good week, everybody.